feel, after listening to these speakers, I feel a pressing need to manage expectations. They are presenters. They are speakers. You know, speakers have a panache around them. They have an aura, a vibe. I'm a talker. But I'm not a presenter. I'm not very good at this, and I have evidence. I was asked a while back to preach a sermon at my church. The elders asked me because the preacher was going to be out of town on vacation. I guess the other people they asked said no, so somebody had to do it, so I agreed. So I prepared, the Sunday came, I delivered the sermon, and I do what preachers do after the sermon. I go to the door of the church and shake people's hands as they leave and say, glad to have you come back and all that stuff. And this lady was coming up, and she had a little boy with her, I don't know, 5, 6 years old, and she reaches her hand out, shake her hand, recognize her as a visitor. So I said, come back and see us again. The little boy with her, he stuck his hand up to me too. So I thought he was mimicking what he saw the adults do, and he wanted to shake hands. So I reached down like this, and he put a crumpled up $1 bill in my palm. And I guess I froze for a second. I wasn't expecting that, and the mom kind of tugged his arm, looked gently, and led him towards the door, and she looked at him and said, why did you put that money in that man's hand? I gave you that for the collection plate. And the little boy looked right back up at her and said, but Mom, you said he was the poorest preacher you've ever heard. So anyway, let's just get right down to it. I didn't have a disclaimer, so I came up with one. I'm not a mathematician, so if you have math questions, seek out a math professional. I'm not that person. But anyway, I trust that you've been listening to all these speakers. Now, you might be thinking, well, I'm not going to do tiny homes. I'm not interested in land, so I tune that speaker out. Don't do that, because you have to understand all these speakers, regardless of the topic, whether you're interested in the topic or not, or the technique or the strategy or not, they are helping build and solidify your mindset. They're taking you to new levels of investing because they're sharing with you their passion, their processes, the way they think, problem solving, analyzing. They're sharing with you all that stuff, regardless of whether or not you're interested in tiny homes. The person that does that, or any of these other topics we're talking about, they've put years into this. They've developed systems, processes, technology, or whatever that you can use in whatever avenue you choose. So they take us all to new levels. You see, you're not the same person now you were when you got here this morning. Your thinking has been elevated. And if nothing else, these speakers up here, I'll tell you what I get from it, they blow my mind. I mean, Bill Cook says, what box? It's like we talk about thinking outside the box, and Bill Cook says, what box? Be creative. Just blow your mind up, expand it. The whole universe is out there. So seek it out, seek answers. And you're not the same person because you've gone through something today. You're not the same. You won't be the same person when you leave here Thursday that you are now, because you're going to go through more stuff tomorrow and Thursday. You've been through a lot of stuff already. You've been through a life. Let's see which way we're going. Okay. You've been through life. So listen to whoever's speaking. Listen, pay attention, develop the discipline to put your knowledge into action, and you will be counted among the wise. In my personal life, I have found that over the past few years, when my plan coincided or aligned, I think we got it that time. When my plan coincides with God's plan, boom! And that's where I'm going to talk about now, the boom, because I have a story I can tell you about the past 45 years. And that's a story that could take a half an hour or more in and of itself. Well, we're going to just kind of skip past that part, but I will tell you this much. At age 20, in my late 20s, 30s, and 40s, I've always wanted to be self-employed because I wanted to make money. I never thought much about what the money would do. It'd give you freedom, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to make money. And I think looking back, because I wanted to make money, I didn't. I tried 3 or 4 business opportunities that I didn't lose anything, but I didn't make anything. They didn't go anywhere. No, I take that back. I didn't go anywhere with them. The business opportunities were solid. There were other people doing similar business that probably made fortunes. It was me. I seemed to be allergic, maybe. I don't know. I'm not predisposed to work. So the business is really, I put forth 50% effort, and they still didn't go anywhere. So that was kind of me. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. Am I pushing the right button? Did it change like 3 slides? Catch you guys up with it. So we're talking about team-based investing. Now, I think I got 1 slide, right? Team-based investing. When I stopped, now listen to this. When I stopped focusing on making money, my whole financial situation did a 180. Now, I didn't say anything much about my financial situation. I had worked 40 years and had some ups and downs, tried some businesses, didn't make anything there, got laid off, got another job, got laid off, got another job. I'm compressing 40 years into 30 seconds. Layoffs, loss of income, times were getting tough, house payments couldn't be made. My first introduction to real estate investing was when a flipper came to my house to talk to me about buying my house because I was in pre-foreclosure. I was near bankruptcy. And he sat down, and instead of sending me a letter or a card or whatever, she'd come to my house, we sit down and talk, and she bought my house, and I was happy to sell it to her. I hope she made $100,000 off of it because she kept me from bankruptcy. I lost that house. I had to sell it and move into a rental. Lost my car. Divorce because of a shaky financial instability, I guess. But anyway, so that's the 40 years. Now, what about the investing part? Well, this is kind of where this is going. Oh, by the way, Ziggs, when I say I changed, my financial situation changed, when I stopped focusing on making money and started focusing on giving money and giving time and giving resources. And I didn't have much money, but the little bit I had, I started giving a little to my church. I started doing a little here or there, started giving a little of my time. And it's amazing the opportunities, the little doors, the little pieces here and there, opportunities to make a few dollars here and a few dollars there that started coming my way. So it kept us afloat. I still had a couple of kids at home. I was a single dad, and they needed to eat. But the opportunities kept some food on the table and kept us going. Zig's philosophy. And I read that, and this is where the book thing you saw a few minutes ago, this is where this comes in. I read his book 50 years ago. That's one thing I did do in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. I read books, mindset books. And you saw pictures of them up there accidentally a minute ago. And Zig's philosophy was help enough other people get what they want, and that's what I started doing, focusing my intent to, more aligned with God's plan, and these philosophies, and things started changing. So, who is this guy? Well, I've told you a little bit about what brought me up to this point, but let's talk about the investing part of it. So as I mentioned, one thing I did do was read books. I haven't watched the news show on TV in many years. I haven't read a newspaper in decades, literally. This is what I started reading. These are the books that you ask, what books should I read? And people tell you, read those books. These are the old classics. Of course, there's a lot of new books out now that I'm reading and you're reading and so on and so forth. These are mindset books, and sometimes you post on, so a tip to you all, especially newer investors post on Facebook, what book should I read? And you get 50 suggestions. what we people who suggest books should ask a question first. What book do you need? Do you need a mindset book? If you're brand new, maybe you need a mindset. Maybe you need The Magic of Thinking Big. The Magic of Thinking Big and Zig Ziglar, see you at the top, were transformational books in my life. They weren't just another book. They were transformational. Some of these other books will be transformational for some of you. Excuse me. Never Split the Difference, for example, a more recent book. That might be your transformational book. The Bible, of course, is for everyone and always and all time, is and always will be transformational. So think about, what book do you need? A technique book on how to flip a house. Do you need a mindset book similar to this, just on overcoming excuses? Chapter 2, by the way, of Magic of Thinking Big. Whatever you need, then have suggestions. Tell people what you need and then ask for suggestions. So anyway, about 6 years ago, now let's get to the investing part. About 6 years ago, my son got into real estate investing. My youngest son, Stephen, got into real estate investing. He hooked up with a joint venture with a property manager guy, and he was going to take over. This guy had a little property management company kind of on the side of his construction business. And since then, those of you who know Stephen, you know he's blown it up massively into quite successful business. 6 years ago, he was just getting started. He said, "Dad, I got a book I want you to read. Cash Flow Quadrant. Another transformational book." Well, I've been preparing the mindset. I might have been averse to work, but I had been planting the seed, preparing the mind for something. I'd been dreaming about being self-employed. I never had a goal. It was just a dream. It was just something I wanted out there somewhere. I was not a business person. I didn't have an MBA. I was three greatest lies ever told. 1, I'll marry you as soon as the divorce is final. 2, the check is in the mail. That one's getting kind of old since we don't do mail much anymore. And the third is, "Hi, I'm with the government and I'm here to help." Well, I was with the government, but I was there to help because I was a school teacher. And, well, thanks. Not for me, for all y'all school teachers. Now, I was a little bit of a rebel school teacher, and you're going to see in a few minutes I'm a little bit of a rebel investor as well. Because I believe the school system should be there to benefit the children. Well, the system believed the school system should be there to benefit the children, as long as it's not inconvenient for the system. And after 27 years, I left that, and that's when the layoffs came and stuff. But he gave me this book, Cash Flow Quadrant. I read the book, and about halfway through it, I smacked myself in the head and said, "Where was this book 40 years ago?" It was amazing to me. I said, maybe this is it. Maybe after all these years of reading these mindset books and all this stuff, maybe, just maybe, this real estate, there might really be something to it. Maybe this is something I can do. So I thought, well, like a lot of new investors, I read the book, by the way, and ironically, I guess, serendipitously, I saw a post on Facebook a couple of weeks after I read this book. This guru, this real estate guru, is going to be here in Richmond and do a 2-hour seminar free. Come learn to make money in real estate. Well, you know it's an upsell to their thousands of dollars of classes. Well, I came to the free 2-hour session. And what I got, and by the way, it was Robert Kiyosaki's session. Now, it wasn't him here, it was one of his people, but it was under his auspices. And the 2-hour thing, I got one thing out of it, and that is, besides pay us $20,000, beside that part, is join RIA meetings. Have you heard that already today? Join RIA meetings, join local meetups, real estate investor meetups. Alicia told y'all. You heard her, didn't you? She told you about 4 times. Well, I did that. And so I met a couple people here, there, and kind of started thinking about maybe I'm going to be a wholesaler, because it seems like that's what to tell you to start off with. So I tried that about a week, and I thought, this isn't for me. It was kind of like 11th grade, you know. 11th grade wasn't for me. No, actually, 11th grade wasn't bad. It was the best 3 years of my life. But anyway, getting back to this, where was I? Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Chuck. It's a pleasure to be. So I attend RIA meetings. So I started attending RIA meetings, and I attended one, and I thought that's where I was. I was going to be a flipper. So I tried flipping for about a month. I went and looked at houses and checked them out, thinking about buying one. And this isn't for me either. I looked at a house and lost $2,500. How much would I have lost if I'd have bought it? So I thought, this isn't for me. So I went to the RIA meetup. There was about 70 investors in the room, and the guy leading the meeting says, welcome everybody this evening to the meeting. Let's see who we got in the room tonight. How many wholesalers? Lots of hands go up. How many landlords buying holds? Lots of hands went up. How many flippers? Lots of hands went up. Said, how many private money lenders do we have in the house? Money lender, one hand went up. So I'm thinking, why am I competing against dozens and dozens of others when there was only one lender in the room? So everybody made a beeline after the meeting to that lender, got the card. I did too. I got his card. And I called him up a day or two later and said, will you meet with me? This man changed my life. He's in this room today. Fred and Marie Krause. And I don't know. I don't mean to make that an overstatement. He changed my life. He impacted it greatly. I don't want to be, exaggerating. It's like my wife used to tell me. I've told you 1,000,000 times. Stop exaggerating. But what happened was I called him and Maria and said, look, I'm interested in being a private money lender. Will you meet me? I'll buy you lunch. So for the cost of 2 barbecues. They impacted my life greatly. Because I met with Fred at a restaurant, a local restaurant, and he gave me 2 hours of just pouring it on me. Now, the thing I liked about Fred is he's tough. Fred puts it on the table. He asks tough questions. I didn't have a clue of most of the stuff he was asking me about. You know about these forms? And what kind of contract do you have? I didn't have anything until I met him, and he just shared. He just shared. And maybe he saw something in me I didn't see. And I think you have people like that in your life that might see something you don't see. And when you get a compliment, you kind of shy away from it. Don't do that. Say thank you. Just say thank you when you get. Maybe there's, I have people in my, Jim Ingersoll must see something in me I don't see. Why am I standing here 4 years ago bringing this story up? So I started saying, I'll be a private money lender. There was one catch. You got it. I didn't have any money. I had a little bit of money. I had a little bit. I had enough because, see, then at another investor meetup, she was right here in Richmond, by the way, I met Dorsey Bodiford. And she talked about wrap lending. And when I was first, I'm starting to jump ahead of myself. So I got into that and I said, this is the way, a little bit of money can turn into a lot of money. And this was about 4.5 years ago or so, something like that. So I took that route. All you have to do is find people with money. And so that's what I've been able to do. Probably 80%, deal maker. Now, okay, so Fred and Marie, they said one of the first things they told me to do at that meeting, they said, you ever heard of deal maker? I said, no. Do you know Jim Ingersoll? I didn't have a clue. He said, well, go register for deal maker. And I trusted him. And I didn't even ask questions. It was a lot of money, $400, 4 years ago? 2020. And the reason I got here early yesterday was to get that seat right over there. Because it wasn't this room, it was over in Innsbruck, but in relation to the stage, that's where I was sitting. And actually, when I was there, I had done a couple of loans. I had done a couple of loans by the time I get here, thanks to Fred's direction and guidance and so on and so forth, and made a few bucks. Since then, I've done almost 200. And you know, all along, I guess, getting back to that people seeing something, I guess I look back on my life, because I don't see that much in me, but I look back on my life, and I had a JV football coach. I went up for the football team in JV, and didn't make the team. I mean, it was hard, 2 weeks, the two-a-day practices and the drills and the tryouts, and I didn't make the team, so I stopped going to practice. And the coach happened to be my math teacher. And one day in math class, after class, he said, Glover, I haven't seen you at practice. I said, well, Coach, I didn't make the team. He said, so you're just going to give up? What if one of the starters, what if one of the bench riders, what if they get hurt? What if they just decide to quit? Who am I going to call up? So he didn't make me, but he said, come on, keep coming to practice, because you never know what's going to happen. Just keep coming to practice. And I did. I didn't make the team, but I kept coming to practice. A lesson learned, right? I had talk about school, freshman year of college. I didn't do too well. I didn't study a lot, 3 F's and a D. And my dad saw my report card after the first day. He said, 3 F's and son, what went wrong? 3 F's and a D? I said, I guess I just spent too much time focused on one subject. But I went to my English teacher. I had an appointment with him. Professor Wallace or something like that, I think it was. I had an appointment with him, went to his office and said, Professor, what can I do to raise my grade up to a C? And he took his glasses off and he kind of pointed them at me and he said, Mr. Glover, never strive for mediocrity. That was the end of the meeting. You see, because I knew what I needed to do to raise my grade. Study. Do the work. I was hoping he'd give me some little extra credit assignment or something. Oh, no, I knew what to do. By the way, I did graduate college with honors. I did do that. So I didn't flunk. Now, you don't have to clap for that. But I didn't flunk everything. I flunked some stuff, but not everything. But he saw something in me that I didn't see. And my coach saw something in me I guess I didn't see. And Fred and Marie, and I guess they see something. So people see things in you. So when you get a compliment, accept it and appreciate it and help it to mold you in a humbling way, that there's something to you. There are people watching you that you don't know are watching you. And you are impacting their lives. Let's move on. I'll spend too much time on one thing. So, freedom. I'm free now. In 4 years, I was sitting over there stifling debt. Credit cards, $80,000 in credit card debt. Very little income. What was my outlook? My outlook was what? To be dependent on my children someday? I was going to be that guy. You say, well, Chuck, you're an old guy. You're supposed to be retired. This is just normal for you. No. I was the old guy who was going to be the greeter at Walmart until my legs started swelling up so bad I couldn't stand up 4 or 5 hours. Or stocking shelves at the big box store. That was my future. That's what I had to look forward to until real estate investing. So now I'm free from these kind of worries. Notice the last one. When you're hungry for money, you have a sparsity mindset. When you give abundantly, your mindset shifts. Your life shifts. So, it's not enough to do your best. That's what I said. Alicia used that very phrase in here a little bit ago. Well, I did my best. When do you hear that phrase? Well, I did my best. When you lose. When you don't make it. Well, I'm doing my best. Well, when do you hear that phrase? When somebody isn't doing well. Well, I'm doing my best. It's almost like an excuse. I have another one we'll get to in a few minutes. So don't do your best. Do what is required. Do you think these ladies are on this picture, do you think they got where they got by doing their best? No, they did what was required. They superseded their best. They did more. You know how they did it? Team-based investing. You are a lot better with a team than you are by yourself. More ideas, more thinking, more manpower, more muscle power. In fact, I'm going to share with you, everybody looks for the secret for success, right? I'm going to give you my formula for success, for massive outcomes. That sentence, I want you to read it and put your name in there. I will demonstrate. If it were easy, there would be no Chuck Glover standing here right now. If it were easy. So let's read it together, and when we get to the blank part, out loud, you put your name in there. Every one of you all together. Ready? If. So you pat yourself on the back. If it were easy, you wouldn't be here. As a matter of fact, I've got Sharon, you're in the room. Your singing this morning was, what do you think about her singing this morning, the national anthem? Is this working? Not working? Hello? Is it working? Sharon, I'm going to, listen, here, take this. I'm going to ask you, she did this a couple years ago here at Dillman. I believe it was a couple years ago. Didn't you sing Amazing Grace? It's not on. Well, there you go. A light came on. Try it now.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh,
Sing, I'm just going to ask you to sing the first verse of Amazing Grace, just like you did a couple years ago. Go ahead.
I don't know if I can remember that far back. All right. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was once lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Woo! Let's hear it. But now, Sharon, don't sit down yet, because I'm going to ask you to sing it one more time. Same verse. This time, I want you to dig deep. I want you to think of all the tough times that you've had. I want you to think of all the people that have said, no, you can't. I want you to think of the losses you've experienced. I want you to think of how you dug down deep and you brought something up to the surface that put you on solid ground and propelled you forward. Sing that verse.
Oh, no, I was already crying through your presentation.
You got it, Sharon. You can do it, Sharon. Dig deep, Sharon.
Deep breaths.
Amazing grace.
Oh, man.
How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was once lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now
You got it.
I see.
Look around you, Sharon, because you just touched 265 lives. And you touch more than 265 because these people know people. And they touch lives. And you touch their lives, and they'll touch other people's lives. So what was the difference? The first time she sang it, she knew what to do. She knew what to sing. The second time she sang it with a passion. She dug deep, thinking about the gratitude and thankfulness that has brought her, of all the strength that has brought her to this place today. Now this, oops, that one. What in the world? That's what it's supposed to be. So you've seen these, all of these dots. So the point here is this. All of these experiences you've had in life, good, the bad, the ugly, the successful, the not so successful, every experience you've had, every decision you've made, every thought you've ever had is a dot in your life. And at the time, it looks like just a mishmash of dots. And some people think, well, I wasted that period of time with that person or this project. I just wasted that period. No, no, no. No dot is ever wasted. If you learn something from it, it's never wasted. Because when you connect the dots, and that's something we don't see, when you connect the dots, it makes a picture. My picture is 2 rabbits and a deer. Your picture is going to be different experiences, but the dots connect. So now, this is my picture. I'm just an average, ordinary guy, living the life I dreamed for 50 years. I hope you don't take 50 years to get there. Let's move on, because there's the formula. So if you want to know the formula, my formula, by the way, remember, I'm no mathematician. My formula for a massive achievement in team-based investing. Now, all of y'all know what OPM stands for. What does it stand for, OPM? Other people's money, other people's resources, other people's knowledge applied. People say knowledge is power. No, it isn't. Knowledge applied is power. Times, other people's time, multiplied by other people's talent. What if I'd have tried to sing Amazing Grace? It wouldn't have been a full room anymore either. But the mind, so it's other people. This is the formula for massive achievement in team-based investing. Other people. Now, so who are the other people? You know, we say, look, if I said, when you drove over here today, last week when you drove, you probably saw some other motorists do crazy things, and you're, wow, what's that guy trying to do? Look at that nut. So I'm going to say a sentence, and you finish the sentence. You fill in the blank out loud, all at the same time, whatever thought comes to your mind. Other drivers. I'm not getting a lot of positive vibes here. Okay, so they're not, let's just say they're not so good, right? Look at the person sitting beside you. You know who that is? The other driver. No, I meant those other drivers. You're the other driver. I'm the other driver. We don't all suck. We're good drivers, but there are some out there that aren't. So other people. So we say, well, this is so impersonal. Other people is impersonal. What I want you to do right now is this. Without getting up from your chair, staying in your seat, if possible, if you can, shake a hand. When I say go, shake a hand, give a fist bump, a high five to someone who's not at your table. Go. Stay in your chair. Stay in that chair. All right, y'all, come to order. So what you just did was you connected with some, because you know the people at your table. You've been hanging out all day together at your table. We sit at the same table with each other, the people we come with, the people we already know. Tomorrow and Thursday, sit at a different table, away from your friends. Meet other people, meet new people, because these other people, money, time, resources, knowledge, talent, they're the people next, right here, that you just fist bump, wave, high five. That's the other person, right here in this room. So, you know why I love that picture? Look at the children's faces. They're delighted. They're having a time of their life. Do you know what game they're playing? Sure, they're playing tug of war, but guess what? A friend of mine in Uganda, this is an orphanage in Uganda, he sent me this picture. They don't have a rope. They're having a great time. So what if they thought, well, we'd like to play tug of war, but we don't have a rope? They might not even know how to play with a rope. I don't know. But they're still playing. Never hold a thought that weakens you. Only thoughts that strengthen you. Give you an example. Oh, networking. Where's this thing going? This thing. Networking. We talk about networking. I'm not a particular user of the word networking because it has that word in it. It puts pressure on you. I'm going to go networking. So you feel pressured. You got to meet somebody. And then when you do meet somebody, you end up changing business cards and moving on. That's not a relationship. Connecting is a relationship. Team-based investing is building relationships. It's getting to know people. So the people you meet over the next 3 days, follow up with an email, a phone call, a something. If you're in your area, visit, lunch together. Follow up. Deals are made on the follow-up. I don't like that word. So think connecting. What is connecting? Connecting people with people with ideas, people with opportunities. That's connecting. Now, networking is a start. Look deeper. Look into team-based, what are we doing, investment? Team-based investment, it's deeper than Where am I? I have an excuse. The gray hair, But that's what, so the introvert versus the extrovert, I don't like these terms. There are very few, if any, introverts in this room. There are very few, if any, extroverts in this room. You see, that's the end of the scale, introvert, extrovert, and we think in terms of the end of the scale. There's a ton of middle ground. There are some people that feel more comfortable reaching out, some people feel less. That doesn't make you introvert, extrovert. In fact, there could be a disadvantage to considering yourself an extrovert. The disadvantage is you talk too much. You overpower people. You're bearing people. Back off. Don't consider yourself an extrovert. Just consider yourself, I don't know what, a vert? I don't know. An introvert. Then if you think, well, I'm an introvert, but I have to go meet, I got to go shake this guy's hand. I'm an introvert. This is hurting. Just clear your mind of that. That's a negative, that's a weakening thought. Hold a thought that strengthens you. I'll tell you a thought that strengthens you. This guy wants to meet me. Oh, what a difference. Now instead of thinking, I got to do this, you're thinking about the other person. You're going to be a benefit to that other person, and that other person a benefit to you too. So think before you use these terms. You're just a person out there making some connections, doing some business, building your legacy, building your fortune. So be careful about that. You don't have to meet everybody. Just meet someone. And sometimes it only takes one. Back to the story. I was there 4 years ago. I was sitting over there. After that between first deal maker and second deal maker, people in the room, my business blew up. 75 to 80% of the deals I did from the first deal maker to the second deal maker came from people many in this room right now, came from people in the room. See, you'll hear the phrase, be in the room. Local meetups, be in the room. Out here, be in the room. That's not always convenient. What if I hadn't been at that one meetup that Fred and Marie were at? What if I had missed that one meeting? That might have been the golden opportunity slid right past me. What if I hadn't been to that first deal maker, stepped out on faith, didn't even know anything about deal maker, stepped out on faith and showed up? And I don't know why, but when I was there, new investor, only did a couple deals, Jim Ingersoll came over there and handed me the microphone. I didn't come up to the stage. He said, he knew Stephen, so he knew I was Chuck. And how you doing? Have you done any deals? Yeah, you've only done a couple. He said, well, welcome. Thanks for being here. And that was it. But I don't know. Anyway, moving on. I don't have an explanation for why these things happen. And there are so many more. I've often said I could write a book. So on your table, you'll see some little slips of paper with this on it. Now, we're not going to go through this now. I challenge you, take one of those slips of paper. Take it home with you. And tonight, and look down that list. And now on the screen it says, fill in the blank space with your name. On the top of the paper it says, rate yourself, 1 to 10, 1 being not so good, 10 being fantastic. For an example, Chuck is patient. Chuck is kind. Chuck does not envy. Chuck does not boast, etc., etc. Chuck doesn't hold grudges. And see how you add up. If you put a number in there, 1 to 10, how kind is Chuck, 1 to 10? Well, maybe I'm a 3. Maybe does not dishonor others. Maybe I like to put other people down, so I might be a 2 there. I like to make fun of people. But I don't hold grudges, so I'm an 8 there. You get the idea. So the higher you are on the scale, whatever the scale is, the higher you are, and nobody will be 100, by the way. The higher you are, the more connectable you're going to be. Your team members are going to want to connect with you. They're going to want to have you on their team, the better your scores are here. This is just being sort of a decent person. And some of you recognize where this comes from. This isn't a Chuck Glover thing. This is from 1 Corinthians. But I challenge you to do that. You can either just put your name and read the sentence and see how it might give you something to discuss with your spouse. Do it by yourself, but after you do it, have your spouse do it, or boyfriend or girlfriend or best friend or whoever else. Have them do it, and then it might give you something to talk about. Sometimes we tend to be the meanest people with the people we love the most. Take that test. Let's move on quickly. Are you a trier or a doer? Now, if I asked you a question right now, how many, don't raise your hand, but if I said, how many people in here are trying to find a deal? I bet a lot of hands will go up. How many people are trying to find some money? I bet a lot of hands. How many people are trying to build a great business? A lot of hands go up. Don't you dare raise your hand. You're not here because you're a trier. You're here because you're a doer. The trier is the person who said, that thing costs too much. Oh, I'm going to be busy. And some of it's legitimate. Not everybody could be here. But there are some people who had an excuse for not coming here, whatever that excuse may be. They're the triers. They're the tire kickers. And it's thank goodness this business is tough. Thank goodness it's tough because those people drop out. It's you that stay the course and you stick with it and you make something of it. It's you. That's why you're here today. You're a doer. I've already clicked this. Oh, so what does Jim Ingersoll say? Connections lead to relationships. Relationships lead to net worth. And even better, friendships. That's team-based investing. Questions lead to connections. Now, I guess I better speed it up. So ask questions. Questions lead to connections. So ask questions. If you don't know, have you ever heard somebody say, well, I don't know what to ask. I'm just new at this. If you don't know what to ask, you don't have a clear vision. You're not ready to ask questions. Just hang out and think about just if you show up somewhere, you have a question. Or if you knew it all, you wouldn't have showed up. Just because you went to a meetup, well, how do I start? Maybe the question is, how do I start investing? Or what's the best way to invest? Maybe it's just a simple question like that, but have a question. And it shows if you have a vision. If you don't have a question, if you don't have a vision, then you don't know who to connect with. What investor is going to connect with you if you don't know where you're going or what you want to do or you have any ideas? Have at least a basic idea. So no questions and ask questions. Surround yourself. Surround yourself. Look at this. With people who are hungry for life, who touch your heart and nourish your soul. People who have dreams and desires, people who have aspirations. That's who you deal with. That's who you invest with, these people. That's why it's such a breath of fresh air to be in a room like this. Oh, the places you go, team-based investing. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who fly to highest heights. So my story, if you never quit, even if it takes 50 years, 55, if you never quit, never, and just keep doing something, just keep, you know, the people talk about how hard it is to make $1 million. Making $1 million is easy. I wouldn't have believed that 4 years ago. I believe it today. You know what's tough? Believing you can make $1 million. And once you start believing that, you'll make $1 million. If you just keep going, even if you stumble around, even if you accidentally end there, you will have achieved success. Let's connect.